JRE 2164. Some believe aliens aren't from space at all. They might be the same beings ancient humans once called angels and demons.
And then look at this blade.
Oh, no.
It's stuck in the door.
Well, watch this. Look how crazy this is.
As he walks in?
Yeah, look.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that is fucking bonkers, man. That thing is stuck into the
Wow,
wall.
that would have fucking took his legs off.
100%. Look how deep it went into the wall. That had some serious force behind it, man.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Good question. Demons.
That's the only answer is
Imagine
demons.
If demons are just causing little car accidents every now and then, just tripping your car.
Angels in the outfield. Remember when fucking Danny Glover, they were helping him fucking catch the ball?
Yeah.
California Angels?
Imagine angels. They don't have any time for the homeless. They're out there fixing baseball games.
It's like fucking Pete Rose.
How dumb is that to think that the angels are going to help you with a baseball game?
They don't make movies like that anymore. It's a good fucking movie.
I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few months, which is maybe not a good sign for the direction my life's going. But I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few months that think that aliens are angels and devils. And that's like when you're hearing about like all those stories in the Bible about fallen angels and devils, like these people think that they were referring to aliens.
That fell from the sky?
No, it's just the term, the way they're phrasing it is like fallen angel, meaning like Satan, and that there's good angels and bad angels, there's demons and angels. What these people believe, and I don't necessarily agree with it, nor do I even understand it enough that I can argue against it, but they believe that all these stories are really referencing a spiritual force that's always here all the time and sometimes exists in the physical form. And it might be existing as these things that we keep looking for, like aliens and UFOs. And it might be doing that maybe even to comfort us, or maybe to be more plausible, or maybe to hide the true nature of what they are. So it will present as if it's from another planet. But really what it is some sort of interdimensional spiritual being that may or may not be evil. It might be good, it might be evil, and there might be a bunch of different kinds out there in the world. But that these stories from like the ancient Hindu texts, and Billy Carson talks a lot about that, and a bunch of other people talk about these different stories from these ancient texts that have people either interacting with sky people or someone coming from the sky and interacting with them. And they think that a lot of these things might be talking about the same thing, and that these aliens that people are encountering, there's some sort of an interdimensional being that has essentially always been here.
I'll tell you who it is.
Who?
It's fucking John Travolta from that movie. You ever seen that movie where he's the angel?
Battlefield Earth?
Whatever. He's a fucking angel. Nah, he has crazy hair.
Dreadlocks.
No, this is a different John Travolta movie. Michael.
Yeah.
Oh.
When he's named
Hold up,
Michael.
Put that back up.
One thing at a time. Sorry.
Bro, the hair is nuts.
Look at this.
Sorry.
Aliens might be living among us disguised as humans or in a base inside the moon, according to a new Harvard study. Yo, when there's Harvard studies is saying there might be a base inside the moon. How wild are things right now?
Oh, my God.
This is so crazy.
But none of this is, it's not really that, like, shocking.
Right. It's not that shocking.
Once you have knowledge of the other realm, nothing's impossible.
No.
Nothing in this life is impossible or fucking shocking anymore.
Well, it's still shocking.
It's shocking
exciting,
slightly,
but space is insane. This is way less insane than what we know about space.
I mean, space and water. The deep sea is something that's fucking as crazy as this to me.
As crazy and undiscovered.
It's fucking nuts. There is an end. It stops. But does it really?
I think it does. But the thing is, like, they don't know what the fuck is down there. They're always finding a bunch of new cool fish.
That Mariana Trench?
Let me see what it says. The researchers have investigated so-called cryptoterrestrials these could be disguising themselves as humans to fit in, may come from Earth's future, or might have descended from intelligent dinosaurs. This guy's from Harvard.
Men in Black.
This guy got all the mushrooms. They're probably doing a Harvard mushroom study, and this dude just stole the stock.
Honestly, I think, look,
Went
the
out
study
into the
was just to
woods.
come up with an answer. Like, give us some fucking answer.
JRE number 1403. Ancient cultures across the planet described giant flying reptiles. Was humanity remembering something real?
So you like these kind of far out there ideas. How do you like this idea? There's a group of people that say that dragons were real, and I'll explain.
Ooh.
So around the same time period, so to speak, and I'm not one of these people, so I'm probably going to get the details wrong
Like
a
a
little
Matthew
bit.
McConaughey movie right
Yeah,
now.
seriously. But so around the same time period in China, South America, Africa, all these different Rome, all these places, images depicted people fighting dragons, right? And every dragon was slightly different, but it was all a giant scaly animal that could fly. So when you break that down, you think about the fact that large birds had a hard time being fossilized because their bones are so porous, right? So because they have like hollowish bones, they break down very easily and they don't fossilize. So the group that says this, basically they're saying the evidence is the reason there's no fossils of dragons is because they had bird bones and they were actually very delicate animals. But a handful of these small population of these giant flying lizards existed and basically encompassed all these different countries where they all depicted fighting dragons in their own way, and they were all killed off by knights or whatever it is, and then didn't fossilize.
What?
So it's like the science is saying that if there were lizards big enough to fly around and eat people, they didn't have bones that could fossilize.
So it'd be like an eagle.
Right. And that's why all these human populations around the world have depictions of them, because they did actually exist.
Now, are there any stories of dragons written in the times of people that they actually had the written word, or is it just depictions?
I don't know. Not my field.
That would
But
be interesting because are these depictions ancient accounts told by generation after generation, passed down?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know anything about dragons or whether it's
Right.
real, but I think it's interesting to think, oh, well, the science supports that if there were flying lizards, their bones wouldn't have fossilized, and these have been passed down, stories that have been exaggerated and passed down from generation to generation.
And some of them breathe fire, but some of them don't, depending
Yeah.
upon.
Which culture it was
Yeah.
significant to.
I wonder what the fire is supposed to represent, or they're just people are full of shit.
Probably that one.
Yeah, it's probably made it sound even cooler.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Not only did I kill him, he was trying to burn me. Do you think that? Do you hold any weight? Do you think that holds any weight? Like
No,
that there's
I-
actually dragons?
I mean, we know there were large flying lizards during the times of dinosaurs, right?
Right.
The only weight that it could possibly hold is that a few of those somehow survived much later than we previously thought. But I think that there were dragons attacking human beings and civilizations? No, I don't. But it's
Isn't
still interesting.
It's so much cooler if there were.
Right.
And the fact that we know that pterodactyls did exist, that's cool.
Right.
What would be way cooler is if they existed with people.
Right. 2,000 years ago.
Why
Yeah.
is that? But why is that so much cooler to us?
I don't know.
It's people would dedicate giant chunks of their life trying to find out if pterodactyls did coexist with human beings at
Oh,
one
yeah.
point in time.
Oh,
They
yeah.
really would.
Absolutely.
Imagine if there was a 100-foot pterodactyl snatching kids.
It'd be terrifying.
Oh my god.
Would you know about the moa eagle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Haast eagle.
The Haast, exactly.
Yeah.
So I call it moa eagle because they used to attack moas.
They
but
weren't
the Haast
that
eagle.
big.
No, but they did supposedly snatch Maori children. Yeah.
But when I Googled it, I remember I think the large ones were 40 pounds or something like that. I don't think they were that big.
Is that all it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
an eagle is really light.
Right, but their wingspan is still
Yes.
enormous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean they have incredible power. When
Yeah.
you see an eagle snatch a salmon with its claws and fly away with this 10-pound salmon,
Right.
And that's insane.
it is.
Because that salmon probably weighs more than it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Birds are weird, right? They sit on you like, oh, you're not very heavy.
No, they don't
You
weigh
know?
anything. And again, that goes back to that whole hollow bone type thing.
Right,
Yeah.
that's why chickens are strange because they're fat.
Yeah.
They weigh a lot. Like you pick up a chicken, you're like, you fat fuck, you can't even fly. But bird, like a hawk, fairly light.
Yeah.
For what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think was the biggest Haast eagle. How big was the Haast eagle? But they were hunted by people,
Right.
Because they posed a threat, right?
And because people hunted the moa to extinction, that giant bird that that the Haast eagle primarily preyed on, and so the twofold kind of made them collapse.
Yeah, large, gigantic, ancient things.
8.5. Let's see. Wingspan for a female is typically 8.5 feet, possibly up to 10 in a few cases.
Why female? I'm trying to talk
That's
about
just the
dudes,
first thing
bro.
I see.
I want to know about the big dudes.
Males 25 pounds, females 31 pounds.
Oh, females are bigger.
yeah.
Matriarchal
Largest
society,
female
yeah.
could have been 36 pounds in mass.
Yeah,
But
that's
still,
not that big.
But a 10-foot wingspan is
Yeah.
pretty huge.
Oh, huge. Yeah, I mean,
And you know, talons, they've got, I don't know, but they had to have been enormous. They're
Yeah.
just flying knives.
yeah. Well, you've seen the videos that the Mongols use, where they train golden eagles to kill wolves, and
They shoot them out, and yeah,
It's crazy.
It's unbelievable.
They fuck up wolves. Like
Yeah.
they're way smaller than a wolf.
Oh yeah,
And the wolf has zero chance.
right.
They swoop down and grab a wolf by the back of the neck and just fuck him up.
Isn't
and
it
They hold
crazy?
it on. The wolf's like trying to get away, and they're just killing him.
And I believe maybe it's not Mongolian culture, but one of those, falconry cultures, you have to, like, as a teenage boy or something like that, your rite of passage is to go climb the cliff and take the chick out of the nest.
Whoa.
And it's like this crazy process where, you know, a number of kids die trying to get to the eagle chick, and the ones that come back, that's their bird for however long the bird lives, or I don't really know the whole process.
That's right out of Avatar,
Isn't that nuts?
right?
Yeah.
That's bananas. You got to steal the chick from the nest and raise it. Who figured that out? Who figured out you're going to train a fucking raptor?
I don't know.
Like, how weird are people?
Yeah.
That they figure these things out.
And someone was the first. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Someone was like, I'm going to go get that baby bird.
You know what he probably did? He probably got high off that honey and said, I'm going to keep climbing.
That's
I'm going
right.
to get me a fucking bird and have the bird do all the hunting.
That's right. Everyone's like, you're crazy, man.
Bro, you can't have a bird do the hunting.
JRE number 1459. Some researchers believe MK Ultra experiments went far deeper than the public was ever told.
So you brought up MK Ultra.
Yes.
MK Ultra was a government program run by the Central Intelligence Agency. Originally started as something called Bluebird in 1948-49, morphed into Artichoke, and then in 1952 became MK Ultra. It was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control people's behavior without their knowledge. Now, this all came out in Senate and congressional hearings in the 70s. It was exposed, but nobody knew about it until 1974 when Seymour Hersh, the New York Times reporter, reported it on the front page of the paper. So their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command, popularly known as Manchurian candidates, after a book that was written in 1962 and later became a movie and then a movie again. The people would be, through drugs and hypnotism, the objective was to get people to go and commit an act of murder against their moral code and have no memory of their programming and be amnesic even of the act after the fact often. That was just that was their main goal, but they were also trying to create couriers, people, military people that they could implant messages, send them, across dangerous areas where there were, at that time it was the Vietnam War, and deliver messages and then have them wiped from their memory in case they were captured. They had all kinds of objectives. So Roger Smith was supervising Manson when he became he was able to do exactly what the MK Ultra program had been trying to create and do for, at that point, about 15, 17 years. When it was all exposed in the 70s, and there were these hearings, first the Rockefeller Commission hearings and the church hearings, and then finally Senators Ted Kennedy and Daniel Inouye held hearings. The CIA admitted that they had done this, but no one would say exactly what they did. All the records had been destroyed when the two people who ran it, Richard Helms, who had become the director of the CIA in the 60s, and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who was kind of the mad scientist who had supervised they had safe houses in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, where they would experiment on people that were lured into these apartments and houses that were either look like brothels or hippie communes or whatever. And the people who were working at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic that was run by another Smith, which makes it a little confusing, but Dr. David Smith, who founded it, he had given an office to a scientist named Jolly West, Louis J. West, who was, when the hearings occurred in the 70s, identified as a top MK Ultra researcher. He was an academic, come out of the military, had been at the University of Oklahoma, and then UCLA, running the psychiatric divisions. He denied ever being involved in MK Ultra. And this was one of the moments, I think it was 2001, when, things really kind of shook the course of my reporting, was I learned that West had been at the same place that Manson was in the Haight in the summer that Manson became exactly what the CIA was trying to create. And I knew, actually, I'd interviewed West about 7 years before for a story I did about celebrity stalkers and people who were obsessed with stars and then only to kill them or try to kill them. And he was an expert in violence, hypnotism, brainwashing, and he was the chair of the psychiatry department at UCLA at that point. He was dead when his name came up in the Manson story, and there wasn't a lot of, I guess there was a lot of Google then, or a little bit, but when I did a little research, I found out that there had been these allegations that he'd been involved in MK Ultra. He always denied it. He was never prosecuted, never even investigated. He went to his grave threatening to sue anybody that said he would have anything to do with this kind of a program. Again, through another long story, but I got access to his files, which had been left at UCLA, and they had never been processed when I called. And when I made the request, it took them 2 or 3 months to process the papers. I went through them through the whole summer looking for a needle in a haystack. And it was intuition, gut. I just thought there might be something there. And sure enough, I eventually found it. It was correspondence between Jolly West and Sidney Gottlieb, the doctor that ran MK Ultra, beginning in 1953, about conducting experiments on people without their knowledge to get them to have amnesia of the acts after they were programmed, and everything that he had been accused of and denied, he did. Not only did he do it, he created the blueprint for the whole program with Gottlieb. The fact that all these kind of interesting research programs merged at the Haight, at the clinic, and then Manson came out of it with the power to do exactly what the MK Ultra had been trying to create for up to that point, I thought was worth investigating further. And that's why I kept going and going and going.
They did a lot of crazy shit back then. Are you aware of Operation Midnight Climax?
Those were the safe houses in San Francisco.
Well, that was the brothel version of it. Yeah, where they lured these Johns into these brothels and then dosed them up with LSD and studied them. Yeah,
George Hunter White was the head CIA guy, and he would sit behind a two-way or a one-way mirror and watch them. The Johns would be dosed with LSD. They tried aerosols or just drinks, different things, and then they would study their behaviors.
Aerosols?
Yeah, aerosol sprays.
Really?
Yeah.
But that would get the prostitutes too then, no?
No, the prostitutes would get them in there, and then they go to the bathroom or something, or to be in the bathroom. Yeah.
Oh,
and again, the problem is the records are so scant because Helms ordered Gottlieb to destroy all the records in 1973 when the two men left the agency. And the only reason anybody ever discovered that it existed was a whistleblower, somebody who used to work for the State Department who remembered that there were records in a warehouse, and they were just financial records from the beginning of the program in 52 until the end, and the possible end in 73. And it was just financial records of where research took place, how much was spent, what kind of equipment was bought, but nothing about the content. The guy that found that ended up testifying to Congress and working with Seymour Hersh to expose it was named John Marks. He wrote the first book about MK Ultra that came out in the mid to late 70s called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. And after he wrote his book, he never, he spoke, did a little bit of a tour, and then retreated into obscurity and never would do an interview again until I approached him in the early 2000s. And when I told him what I had found in West's files, these documents, he agreed to meet with me at his townhouse in Washington, D.C. And he told me, he said, the reason I stopped talking or writing about this was people were camping out on my front lawn, you know, telling me that they'd been victims of MK Ultra. He goes, I couldn't go anywhere. My whole life became crazy because everybody thought that they were subject to this because nobody knew. They did these drug tests on prisoners, hospital patients, Johns, hippies, people that had no idea that this was going on for 25 years. So Marks became the authority. So he had never given an interview till he met with me. And when he looked at my documents, at that point, I think I had about 10 or 12 or 15 pages that grew eventually because I kept going back to the files and getting more. He said it was the most unredacted, uncensored account of what the real objectives were and what was really being done. He said if I had had that, my whole book would have been different. That's one of the problems about saying, well, how much did they do or how far did they go? There's barely any record, and that's another reason it took me 20 years because I was trying to find out whether or not Wes had actually interacted with Manson and or the girls. I mean, I knew he was in the same facility. I knew that everybody that worked there, because I interviewed everybody that was alive. Most of them were still alive back in the late 90s and early 2000s when I did this. They all said, oh, yeah, Charlie was, you know, we knew it was Charlie and the girls. They come in every day or every few days to see Roger. And West was there recruiting subjects. Now, West, while he was there that summer, had opened something called what he called the Haight-Ashbury Project. And in his correspondence and papers that I found, he called it a laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad. And, and just like the Operation Midnight safe house, they call them safe houses, which were disguised as bordellos and that type of thing, or brothels. This was an apartment that was decked out, or as he called it, tricked out to look like a communal hippie place. He had 6 graduate students, and I have his letters to them before they came to work in this. He goes, grow your hair long, wear jeans, dress like hippies, and lure people in there. So they ran that for the summer of '67, and Wes was getting people from that Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic on Clayton Street and sending them around the corner to Frederick Street to participate in that.
Good Lord.
And I got the diaries of some of the graduate students who were there, and they all, in these diaries, said, we have no idea what we're really supposed to be doing here. We feel like this whole thing is a cover for something else. What does Jolly want? Why is he making us bring these people in? So
imagine doing that to graduate students, telling them to bring people in and drug them up. Imagine telling them
some of
to
them
make
liked
an apartment. I'm sure they liked it.
Because they were also, encouraged to use LSD.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I mean, imagine being a graduate student and this is your project on people. I mean, that sets up, even if you leave that program and go on to do legitimate work, the ethical foundations of your career are set up in such a strange way. You're manipulating people against their knowledge.
Well, they didn't know who they were doing it for. That's why they were always questioning it. So, I don't know how. I found 1 or 2 of them after, and they were very careful talking to me.
I'm sure. They probably felt like they were going to go to jail.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. If any of these experiments or whatever was going on resulted in a death, there's no statute of limitations on murder.
Right, right.
I mean, that's one of the biggest disappointments of my book is that people like West aren't alive, to answer to this. And it was really frustrating for me because, again, his name was on the front page of the New York Times in 1977 when they had the major hearings about MKUltra. And it identified him as the head of the psychiatry department at UCLA, a very prominent doctor, a researcher. And he said he had nothing to do with that. He'd never used LSD on humans, and he wouldn't. He said they had asked him, and he said no. I have all these letters between him and the guy who was running the program describing how they're going to do it, hide it from his colleagues. When he started at Lackland Air Force Base. He was running the psychiatry department at the hospital there in 1952. When he was there running that hospital, that's when he started his experiments on prisoners, human subjects, and one letter to Gottlieb. He says, eventually we have to take these experiments out into the field.
Oh, Jesus.
Exactly.
What does that mean?
Well, if you haven't gotten through a chapter 11 yet, you haven't gotten to the Jimmy Shaver case.
No, I haven't.
A year after, oh, maybe Jamie did. A year after West contracted with the CIA to do these experiments, July 4th, 1954, a 3-year-old girl went missing from the parking lot of a bar at about 11 or 12 at night. Now, her parents, it was a heat wave. They couldn't sleep. They went to the bar. They brought their 2 kids. They let them play in the parking lot at midnight. The little girl disappeared. They organized a search party. About 3 or 4 hours later, they went to a gravel pit, and two airmen had called, or 2 itinerant guys had called the local sheriff and said, there's a guy here that wandered out of the brush with scratches and blood, no shirt, and he doesn't know how he got here or who he is. The police came. His name was Jimmy Shaver. He was an airman. They did a search, and they found the little girl's body not too far away, and she had been raped and murdered by this guy who had no memory of doing it. The guy had no history of violence. He had a couple kids, and he was a flight instructor at the school. He'd been in the military for a number of years. I think he was in his early 30s. Well, guess who became his psychiatrist in preparation for the trial? Jolly West, who inserted himself into the case and then extracted his memory from him using sodium pentothal, where he admitted to the murder. Now, in the context of what we found out West was doing and what his objectives were at that same time, it raises huge questions about this was an experiment gone wrong, that he was part of one of these experiments at Lackland Air Force Base where he was signed up. During the trial, it came out that he had had treatment for severe migraines, experimental treatment at Lackland. That's another, a smaller subchapter in the book. But
does it describe what kind of experimental treatment he received?
No, because nobody. I mean, I have all the testimony. There was actually a trial, a retrial, and sentencing. And every time it came up, it was really frustrating because he never testified. So it was either his wife or his mother who would talk about it. It was mostly his mother saying, well, all I knew was they wanted him to be involved in this 2-year study to try to relieve his migraines. He would have such horrible migraines, he would put his head in buckets of ice water. The people who described encountering him that night when he was arrested and immediately taken out of the sheriff's custody by the military police and brought to Lackland and then back to the sheriff's, he was in a trance. The doctors tested him for alcohol because they thought, well, maybe he's drunk. He had just a little bit of alcohol in his system, but he wasn't drunk. And after the fact, they found out that he had, I don't want to get into this because it's really getting into the weeds, but he had hallucinated that this little girl was a cousin who sexually abused him as a child, and he was trying to kill her. Her name was Beth Rainbow. All this stuff came out of the trial. Jolly West in 1955 sent a report to Sidney Gottlieb, which nobody had seen, and it was another document I found in his files, announcing that he had learned how to, or developed the technology to remove true memories and replace them with false memories and a human subject without their knowledge, which was one of the main goals, the biggest goals of the MK Ultra program. And again, when the CIA, when they had the hearings in the 70s, the CIA said nothing was successful. Everything we tried was a failure. It was a waste of money. We shouldn't have done it. And not just me, but most experts think that that was a cover, that they didn't want to admit that they had developed these technologies that were effective. They also claim that they had released everything they had. I found the same report where West said that he had learned how to replace true memories with false ones without a person's awareness, but they had removed that from the report and then released it to Congress. So that's a crime right there, So there's a lot of that stuff. in the book.
So the speculation is that this guy, through these experimental treatments, that they had dosed him up with LSD and experimented using these MK Ultra techniques and did that to him and induced some sort of...
Well, this is speculation,
Yes.
and I'll go there
Okay.
for this. The guy had no history of violence, never been arrested, was a stellar, upstanding citizen. His only problem was he had these horrible headaches. All of a sudden, he shows up by a small girl's body who'd been brutally murdered with no memory of doing it. A year earlier, Dr. West, who became a psychiatrist within a week or two, possibly had experiences with him before, but there was no record. Oh, when I tried to get the record from the medical center at Lackland, his file, his name was Shaver, I think it was S-A to S-I, was missing. So where Shaver would have been in the medical records, it was gone. So I couldn't find out whether he had actually participated in any kind of experimental program there.
So is the speculation, and again, this is speculation, that he did commit the crime, that he was somehow or another induced into committing this crime?
Yeah, and again, this is speculation.
Yes.
It's completely circumstantial. The objective was to get people who would go out and do things, not even necessarily kill. That was the ultimate goal, but to do things against their will, against their moral code.
Right,
even.
but how would they know that this child would be there? How would they know?
Oh, no. She wasn't targeted.
So was it just that they'd put it into his head to go
Yeah,
do
and
that to anyone?
Yeah, something clicked and went wrong.
So it wasn't a precise thing.
No,
It wasn't.
no. Nobody really knew what LSD. This was the very early days of experimenting with LSD in the early 1950s. West was one of the premier researchers in LSD, but he was still new to it. He had actually come out of. He had first gained national attention for being one of 4 or 5 doctors who treated Korean prisoners of war who were returned to the United States after they had made confessions of spraying the Korean countryside with illegal biological weapons. The United States said that we don't use that. That's against the Geneva Codes. And these guys were brainwashed by the North Korean, Chinese, Soviets. So when they were brought back after the war, West and 4 other psychiatrists were assigned to deprogram them. What a lot of researchers believe is that they actually brainwashed them into thinking they'd been brainwashed by the Koreans, where they actually were telling the truth. Because there's a lot of evidence that's come out as recently as 5-6 years ago that we did use these weapons in Korea.
Oh, boy, the old double cross.
Yeah.
JRE number 2327. Perfect crop circles appearing overnight with no footprints or machines. Coincidence? Secret tech? Or something not human?
And I also wanted to find the other side, so that what we're left with is some truth. And not all stories can be fully debunked. And I've had my mind flipped a couple of times. You know, crop circles, hollow moons, some really crazy shit have flipped me around.
Crop circles is a weird one.
So weird.
It's a weird one because when I first saw them, I'm like, what is that? And then I saw that these guys were doing them with boards and string. I was like, oh, it's just people being silly. And then I watched a whole documentary about how the energy that bent these things over caused these nodes to explode as if they had been cooked in a microwave.
Correct.
I'm like, what? And then you find out that the actual stalks are woven together.
Correct.
It's not that they're pressed down, they're woven together. And that these are complex geometric designs that would have taken people weeks to map out. And there's no footprints leading up to it. There's no roads, no machinery, no evidence of any use of any kind of machinery. And these things appear like that. Like people have flown over an area and then flown back an hour or two later, and there's immense football field size, perfect geometry that no one can explain how it was created.
Correct. So the nodes in the stalks, a node is like a knuckle on your fingers. So those are there for phototropism, to bend toward light. So what you're talking about is these things are bent over. They're bent over at right angles. It can only be done with high energy. But also around these crop circles, they're finding microscopic metallic spheroids in around the circles. And that's not a conspiracy theory. They're finding them. And there are these magnetic fields around the circles. And you can see videos online of people going into these crop circles and their hands start to get red. Things are happening to them. So I went into crop circles thinking it was all guys with boards. But then when you watch people with boards making a crop circle, it's a mess. They can't do this. And you cannot bend the nodes of reeds and weave them together in a perfect... You can't do it. So that was, as I'm doing the research, I'm like, all right, 99% of them are fake, but there's this 1% that I cannot explain.
The famous video where you see the orbs circling around the field in England and then the crop circle slowly starts to emerge, has that been debunked?
Semi. It's controversial because the guy released that video, I don't know his name offhand, allegedly went to a visual effects house.
Oh, boy.
And released it. But they somehow put that thing together in a matter of hours, which is suspicious. So in my episode on it, I said, all right, here's what the skeptics say. But, in the 1990s to do that kind of VFX work, because it looks real, I don't know. To me, I'm on the fence about it.
It's very convenient that they got the footage.
It is.
It
is. Operation Blackbird was a famous operation in 1990 to try and capture the footage live by a great researcher named Colin Andrews. And,
he's the guy that does the books on crop circles, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's all in.
He's all in, and he got a lot of support for Blackbird. And not only did nothing happen, he was totally embarrassed by it. And it was all like streaming live, and a lot of people were involved. He's embarrassed. We find out later that while they're like waiting for the circles to happen, just a few miles away, there's a top-secret military operation doing whatever they're doing. He doesn't know why. And then he gets a knock on the door from someone, Men in Black, whoever it is, that first offers him money to stop his work, then threatens him with whatever, threatens his family, and he doesn't know who this guy is. They go back and look at the tapes, and he sees the guy in the background of like one of the TV crews. So the theory is some type of intelligence was embedded into Blackbird, made to discredit him. And that was kind of the end of Colin Andrews, because he was a legit researcher at that point. Now he's fringe, and now he's pseudoscience. But I get into that in the episode. That was something I discovered that I never knew, that there was intelligence involved. I didn't know that there was a military op, which is confirmed. It's wild.
So do you think they discredited him on purpose?
Yes.
Interesting. To make the crop circle thing look foolish. But like, what is the crop circle thing? Like, what is out of the believers, what is the best theory?
The believers is that it's a way to message craft, or it's a landing site, or it's some type of communication.
But why would they do it in wheat fields?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. If you have the technology, just
yeah,
pick up the phone. There's better ways than just mowing wheat down. But I don't understand.
Do you know the one about the Mandelbrot set?
I've seen it.
Yeah, I think that one is really weird because I think it coincides with the fractal creation of the Mandelbrot set by these people that are into this kind of geometry and fractals. They're like, someone made the Mandelbrot set, which is essentially an infinite fractal of like spectacular design.
And this is before Lorenz and the Lorenz attractor. I think it's before that, isn't it?
I don't know.
Before it was mainstream.
Yeah, before it was mainstream,
right.
Yes. And then when this thing appears and people are like, well, what is this design? And then they connect it to this Mandelbrot set, which is, someone would have to have some very esoteric information to be.
It's the Mandelbrot set using Fibonacci numbers.
Yes.
And the phi, the golden ratio.
And it's accurate.
It's accurate down to inches.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Well, maybe you can, but like how and how long would it take and how much planning and how many people and what would you use? Like what is the technology that would use to bend those things over that way and weave them? It's very weird stuff.
It's weird.
Because it's these, the way these fractals work, it's this ratio in the geometry is like there's specific sizes. This one is half the size of that one, which is half the size of that one, and it goes on forever. And when you see it all, see if you can find the Mandelbrot set.
It's maybe the most spectacular crop circle.
It's weird. It's really weird because it's fucking enormous. Mm-hmm. You know, and it seems so stupid. Wow, there's a whole bunch of them. The Mandelbrot set is the one with the look like a heart. About that one right there. Yeah, that's it. That's the Mandelbrot set.
Yep, and there's some other fractals there as well.
I was looking at an article that says these two guys took on the challenge and did it for a TV show on the BBC.
They did. If you watch them do it, it's clumsy AF.
Yeah, it doesn't look as good. Like,
I was trying to find it.
'Cause
I know they always say that these guys did it,
that's
but
the
like,
one.
Yeah.
You can't really see it there, but those flattened reeds, they're woven together.
with some of the weirder ones, go back to other crop circles. You had some other images before that. There's some other ones, those spirals.
Right.
Like that one right there. Yeah. That is fucking wild.
That's wild.
Like, this is multiple football fields long and wide. So how? Make that one a little bigger, please.
And one of these, I don't know if it's that one in particular, showed up right next to Stonehenge. Like a tennis ball throw away.
Like, that is crazy. To not, first of all, if you're on the ground, all right, just the measurements alone to make each one the equal distance between circles, you know, in the whatever 6 different blades that you have that stem from the center, they're all the same distance, they're all the same size.
The small circles are the ones that are most interesting, because how hard is that to do?
Right. And they're uniform. And it's like, what is that? Like, what the fuck is that? And if that is a hoax, it's so bizarre that it's only these 2 goofballs that were making really shitty ones with boards and strings. And yet there's hundreds, if not thousands, of these like really complex ones.
Yeah,
that exist.
Those are the guys that are on. You can see them doing it live.
Yeah, but those guys, there's no way they had enough time to do all these things.
And it looked terrible. Yankee, look, he's just trampling it.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can certainly make crop circles with a string and a board. You certainly can make crop circles. But it always gets connected, like believing in aliens and everything else. But it's not, no one's even saying aliens. Like, it could be some sort of energy from something that we possess, something that humans possess, that they somehow or another aim at these areas. Like, what is that one above it? Go that one right there above, like right there. What the fuck is that thing? Look at that.
They are in the same count. 80% of them come from the same county in England.
Which is also weird.
Now, people will correct me in the comments, but I believe that middle piece of geometry is a hypercube, isn't it? Isn't that a 4-dimensional cube?
I don't know.
A tesseract?
It does look like it, but
like, what the fuck? How long would that take? That seems like that would take a long time to do.
Stonehenge is under constant surveillance, and circles show up overnight.
Very weird stuff.
There's an interesting conspiracy
what the fuck, dude?
to crop circles that we can get into later.
Wiltshire has the most crop circles in England.
Yes.
And it's mostly in England, too, which is also weird.
And mostly in Wiltshire.
Like, is there some sort of a theory by the kooks?
Ley lines.
Ley lines.
That they're happening on these segments of energy that intersect.
What is that black and white one, Jamie? Click on that one.
it's just a
No.
sorry.
That one. What the fuck is that? Wow.
Wow. On a
That's
mountain.
Crazy.
That could be in sand, I think. This is like sand dunes.
Is that what that is?
Circle 16.
That's crazy.
I've never seen that one. It's wild.
I mean, just the amount of time that it would take to do these things. So, ley lines. So this is the theory?
That's the theory. Have you heard about ley lines?
Kind of.
It's this alleged grid of energy that circles the Earth, and almost like how magnetic fields work. And these energy lines have intersection points, and on these intersection points are things like Stonehenge, Giza.
Whoa.
It's in snow on a mountain in France.
Wow! Where are the tracks in?
What?
Okay,
what the fuck is that?
So this is
no footprints, no tracks.
Footprints right here.
Yeah, but that could be
that could be the people that discovered it.
Right.
Though.
Oh, this is a guy that did it, though.
Oh, the guy. Oh,
it's
God,
an artist that did this.
a
This
guy
isn't,
actually
these aren't
did
crop
it.
circles. This is an artist doing it. That's
I
kind of
see.
what I was trying to say.
Fucking incredible. An artist did that?
Yeah, it has the guy's name on that first picture we had here.
Amazing.
Simon Beck.
So the artist angle is a conspiracy angle. There's a man named John Lundberg who was part of a group called CircleMakers.org, which is an art project and also a sociology experiment. He would make fake crop circles to see how people would react. Years later, Lundberg and some associates created a documentary called Mirage Men, which is an excellent documentary. And it's mostly about Richard Doty and his disinformation campaign on behalf of the Air Force to discredit the UFO community, drove Paul Benowitz nuts. Bill Moore, who's the guy who essentially brought Roswell out to the public. Bill Moore was taking payments and being fed information from Doty to muddy the waters in the UFO community. He finally came clean in '89, was booed off the stage at MUFON, and everything just unraveled. So it's all disinfo.
They booed him off the stage?
Because he finally said, look, I've been working with the government. A lot of the stuff I've been saying, they told me to say. Majestic 12, all this stuff was coming from Doty, and they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to, and his career was basically over that day.
Wow.
Bill Moore. There was no Roswell story before his book, and that was Doty. So the documentary about Doty was directed and put together by Lundberg and his associates. Lundberg was one of the original circle makers that would make these fake crop circles to see how people would react. I just thought it was an interesting connection.
But it's interesting because clearly some people are making these, but like, what was the origins of it? Because I'm sure you've seen that image from the newspaper of the devil with a scythe. You know what I mean? And they're talking about crop circles like back in like the 1700s and 1800s.
1678.
Yeah, 1600s. Wow. First crop circle ever reported was in 1678. According to the story, farmer and a crop mower were arguing about the cost of harvesting the farmer's oat field. The farmer was furious at the mower's price and stormed off, swearing that the devil himself should harvest the crop. That night, a dazzling light lit up the oat field, and in the morning, the farmer discovered perfectly round circles in his crops. He was so frightened by the circles, which he thought could only have been so neatly mowed by the devil or some infernal spirit, that he abandoned any attempt to harvest the field. That's a little sketchy. You're scared of circles. Come on, pussy.
Really, though? If there were crop circles in my backyard, I would be a little nervous.
I would be curious. It's not terrifying, right? They're not something that would scare me away from harvesting my crop.
No, I'm more afraid of the government than I am of,
Yeah.
that stuff.
Crop circles don't seem to be killing anybody.
No.
But it's like, so ley lines. So these things are to differentiate areas so they could see them from the sky. Is that the idea?
The ley lines are the energy lines. A mystical energy. It's not a scientific energy. And where the lines intersect is where you see sites like Machu Picchu, Giza, Stonehenge, all these ancient sites. There's the ley lines.
Oh.
But ley lines is, it's semi-debunkable because if you connect enough lines, you're going to find patterns. You're going to find geometry.
Right. You go looking for it.
Right.
Yeah.
If the multiverse is real, there may be infinite worlds where humanity never survived, and others where something else did.
Like Einstein tells us, and this is, bring in the multiverse for this too, right? Einstein told us that space is like stretchable. Right, so it expands. So we have the moment of the Big Bang, and the universe or existence as a whole, we might say, space and time, evolves according to the law of inflation. So we keep getting a bigger and bigger area of space. And some physicists think that this inflation happens eternally, that it isn't reasonable to say that it just stopped as soon as our universe was created, or one or two later. So what you have is this popular view in physics where you keep getting more and more of these universes and end up with a popular multiverse view where every single possible physical reality is realized. So there's worlds, according to this view, where we're having this conversation in Spanish or, God forbid, French, right? Or there's a very nearby possible world where we're having this conversation in Italian, German, or Japanese, right?
Exactly the same words, exactly the same pauses, infinitely.
There are worlds, though, and I think the real question we want to ask, there are a bunch of these multiverse views. We spoke at the start about the purpose of philosophy, Mary Midgley clarifying these concepts. This is an idea my friend Ellie Robson convinced me of recently, that it's a really important job in philosophy. We haven't done a good job in physics and philosophy of defining the multiverse. We keep using the word, but you've had Sean Carroll on the show, who's fantastic, and I've spoken to him about his many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
You got views in philosophy that give you every single metaphysical possibility. The easiest one to illustrate it's just this inflation model that I've just given. But what we really want to know is why this matters. Does this change the value of the world? Because there are universes where little girls are born, they're tortured for their whole lives, they're executed, and it repeats, right? There are universes where Matt Damon's career didn't get worse, but it got better, right? So there are good universes too. But on the whole, that means you've got an uncountable number of bad universes and an uncountable number of good universes. So I think if the multiverse theory is actually true, as agnostics or atheists, we should be really fucking worried. This is a horrible state of affairs. If there are all of these worlds, if you actually believe that they exist, you shouldn't be singing and buzzing with the bees and jumping with the shrimp and being all excited about existence. We should be really concerned.
But we're really concerned about things that we're not even sure exist that are horrific.
Yeah, well, you should be.
You know what I'm saying? That's
of course.
Existential angst to the power of 1,000.
Well, there's a couple of problems there, right? Well, there's three big problems that come out of it. The main one, which we've just linked to, is if you're trying to weigh up the overall value of existence, is the world, i.e. the multiverse, a good thing on the whole or a bad thing? And I think if you say that there is, let's just say it's infinite, even though it might not be. If you say there's infinite suffering and infinite goodness, that doesn't seem like you can be optimistic. You'd have to go, on the whole, the existence is neutral, mixed, or maybe it's bad. Maybe you don't want a city where everyone's getting tortured next door to a city where everyone's living a blissful life.
But in our own experience on Earth, horrific things and beautiful things are happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, more beautiful things than horrific, but we concentrate on the negatives.
Yeah.
To sit around and ponder the multiverse being an infinite number of evil civilizations destroying themselves and torturing themselves. Okay, how is that any different than thinking about demons? How is that that any different than thinking about the puppet masters of the universe controlling all of our minds?
Yeah.
It's it's just mental masturbation. There's no way you're going to know whether or not there's a multiverse of people suffering. So to not be happy in this beautiful existence because perhaps there's a multiverse in which infinite suffering is occurring seems to me to be a giant waste of an amazing trip. The trip that we're on right now is Earth 2025 Western civilization. Pretty fucking cool. Pretty cool. And I think your job is, if you're so fortunate that you're in this position, to enjoy this very bizarre place in history where it's the strangest time perhaps ever that human beings have been alive. And we're going through it. You could sit around all day and think, but in other multiverses, people are just getting eaten by other people. Maybe.
Well, it's sort of mental masturbation in the sense that, it just means that you can't, when you contemplate all of existence, think that it's an overall good thing. So in that sense,
we don't know. We don't know what it is.
Well,
we really don't know.
For the multiverse theorists,
sure. There's probably an infinite number of if the multiverse exists, and if there's not a limited number of universes, but it's an infinite number of universes, there's probably an infinite number of universes that are also fucking amazing.
Yeah.
They're probably all competing just like all life is on this planet. And what if the universe is constantly in a state of evolution itself? Why would we limit that to physical things that we can currently observe? If we know that there's stellar nurseries, we know that how planets get born and stars, and we're very aware that there's this process going on. Why would we assume this process is completed and perfected? Maybe this process is also moving in a better direction constantly, just like human life is, just like human civilization is. Maybe that's something that exists everywhere in the universe, and that the universe itself is advancing to a more powerful state or a better state.
Well, this is good. So let's say entertain the multiverse view, and let's pretend it's true, right? And so you've got infinite pleasure, happiness, and infinite suffering and pain.
Right.
So I think once you do, you minus one from the other, you've got a neutral set of existence. Let's say this.
Sure.
Right? So on balance, it's about the same. So if you're a pantheist and you believe in the god of the multiverse, if you embrace multiverse theism, then you can't believe that God is good in the same way. There's also a problem, which is you mentioned something like the process, right? But there are worlds in which this process has already been realized. It doesn't really matter if our world reaches that or not. In the grand scheme of calculating the amount of good and bad in the world, you might think that...
Explain that again. Say that again.
Well, you might think that, like, some people say stuff like this, right? They go, I want to, like, stop eating meat or stop taking long-haul flights. But really, when it comes down to it, it doesn't really matter whether I buy that chicken or take that flight. It's not going to impact the overall good and bad that's in the world. It's a drop in a huge ocean that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of it. If the multiverse theory is true, something like that hits a little bit harder. If your goal is to make existence as a whole greater or better, then it's nothing compared to the infinite suffering and pain that's already out there. You can't change the overall value of existence. I still think, and I'm with you on this, I'm sort of following the line of argument to the point where it's fleshed out fully. But now we've said that, I still think there's a point in being moral in developing your own character, sorting out your own house or community or country or continent and the world.
It seems like that's what our job is.
Yeah, it seems like
that's where
that's
we
still
we
worthwhile.
get what you keep referring to as meaning. That's where we get meaning.
Yeah, I think that's fine. There's other problems, though, that seem to fall out of this as well, right? Which is like we have a concept of what it is to be a person back to our individual subjective conscious minds. When we try and think about what it is for me to be me today as the same person born like 31 years ago and the same person and the halfway point between that again, to go back to Zeno. Like, how am I the same person throughout time? I think the best answer to this is something like, I have the same capacity for conscious experience. If it was stream of consciousness, that would mean every time you drift off during me talking now, then you would die and you'd be born again when your stream of consciousness reemerges. Or if it was, like if you say, Joe Rogan is that stream of consciousness, that sequence of experiences that he's undergoing now,
right,
and that stops because you drift off, that would mean your stream of consciousness has ended. Think of it like sleep. When you go into like NREM sleep and you don't have any conscious experiences, let's say, you would die according to that view. Or the reviews in philosophy which say you are your psychological continuity. Joe Rogan is the person that believes, I don't know, that Marshall, his golden retriever, is fantastic, and that, I don't know, that consciousness is the fundamental nature of stuff. But then if I were to strip those beliefs away from you, the psychological continuity view would say Joe Rogan doesn't exist anymore.
Because I don't exist anymore. Yeah, I get you.
So I think it's like
that,
the
but
thing
I don't
that gives
get
you your
the
consciousness.
Drifting off thing doesn't make sense to me, because drifting off is just a failure to connect.
Yeah, but
you're still conscious. It's not like I'm dead, like everything goes black and I don't know anything. I'm thinking about other things. My stream of consciousness just stopped paying attention to you. If I drift off, I never drift off entirely. If I do, I go to sleep.
Well, but when you sleep, you have it, right?
Yeah, but when you sleep, you dream. Like, what is going on there? We don't even understand that.
You don't think there's ever a moment when you don't have an experience?
Well, you don't have a conscious experience because you're not conscious.
Oh, that's good. That'll do.
Right, but what is going on? Like, why do we have such vivid dreams? Like, what is going on with consciousness in regards to REM sleep? We don't totally understand that. We don't really know what that is.
Well, it's a bit of a... Even then, it might seem like a bit of a problem, right? Take out like copy and paste teleportation to really put it out there. Mm-hmm. I copy all of the parts of you, I destroy them and recreate them elsewhere.
Right, like Star Trek.
Yeah. Star Trek's, I don't know
beam
much about
up,
Star
Scotty.
Trek. It's
like
different. It's different on Star Trek. It's not copy and. This sounds so fucking nerdy. Yeah, I'm really embarrassed.
Well, it's not copy and
this.
paste, but it's like they take you and they beam you to another planet. Yeah, and you don't exist here anymore, but you exist over there.
But some nerd told me that when the beamed. Do you like Star Trek?
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Sorry,
the original
I shouldn't call you.
It's okay. I was a kid.
So when you're getting beamed around in Star Trek, it's not copy and paste.
Right.
Teleportation.
It's cut and paste.
No, it's not cut. Oh, it's cut. It's cut and paste here. Okay. So it would be cut and paste. I copy you. I recreate you.
Right.
It'd be copy and paste if I made another Joe Rogan, and then we've got the problem that sort of Paul Rudd has in that Netflix show, which is great. Living with Yourself. Have you seen that?
Oh no, I haven't.
Oh, it's
Is he
gold.
make a clone of himself?
Yeah, he
I
wants to have a better
like,
life.
You can't give that power to dictators. Like if you can, like, when I was talking to Kurzweil and he was talking about downloading consciousness into computers. I'm like, what's to stop someone from doing that 1,000 times? What's to stop someone from making an army of Donald Trumps?
Yeah.
Like how you can't stop. If you could do it once, you could keep doing it.
Going.
Especially as technology advances.
Oh, it's gold, the Paul Rudd one. They recreate him, but as a better version of himself.
Oh, no.
So all of his friends want to hang out with the other one. His wife wants to be with them.
No.
Yeah. It's,
no.
it's a
He
really
should just
good
kill
show.
himself. He's already here. I wonder if he shot himself in the head, he would just be that other guy.
In Star Trek, what happens is you carry on having experiences. They beam you. Someone told me there's an episode where you see what it's like to be teleported, and it's just like this world of things and lights around you. So it's not like the lights go out even for a split second.
Right.
But on the copy and or cut and paste version, it would be that second.
Well, it is an interesting question because if consciousness is not local and you download someone, like what, if you do move, if you do take someone out of this physical existence and put them somewhere, but then they don't have a soul, then they're this bizarre vessel that can no longer communicate, and then we'll realize like, oh, we fucked up.
Yeah.
We got to go find out where that guy's consciousness got dropped off along the journey.
I think it probably does get dropped off.
It probably does.
Because it needs the same capacity there to begin with.
You're probably an antenna for consciousness.
An antenna for it?
Yeah. You're probably a physical thing with a lot of biological requirements that's connected to some sort of consciousness that sees itself as an individual but is completely connected to all the life forms around it.
What makes you? Because I've been unpacking like philosophical arguments or reasons for holding these views. Right? What's your motivation for? Like, I'm not sure if this is your view, but even like entertaining it, right? 'Cause it might seem like they call them like just so stories, right, in philosophy, right? You can tell a tale about what it might be, but why take that tale you're telling seriously?
Well, first of all, not completely connected to this, but I think it's possible that what consciousness is almost like a giant motherboard, and we are all connected to that motherboard as individuals, but that we share this one thing together. And I think we really become aware of that when there's when the community comes together, when there's a tragedy, when there's an event, something happens, we all mind meld together.
Yeah.
And I think the individual, the biological entity that is you and that is me, has all of these requirements that it has to meet in order to stay alive and to move forward and to progress in their civilization and culture. And that this is a different thing than the entire consciousness that we share. But we share it with each other so much so that we can't be alone. I mean, people that are alone for too long go crazy.
Yeah.
The worst they can do to you in prison is put you in solitary confinement.
Yeah, I couldn't think of much worse. It's not we're social animals, right? So we do look for that, but that's still something. You need something stronger there, right? So you go, we want to connect with people, we want to form these communities and bonds. In the face of tragedy, we come together and we support each other and we empathize with each other and we love and support each other. But like on a deep philosophical level, I'm still seeing the world through my eyes and not your eyes, right?
Right.
So why think that gives us a reason to think that there is this unifying experience or mind that occupies all of space and time?
JRE 1318, Hotep Jesus discusses mysterious Egyptian-style artifacts discovered in Ohio. Could an ancient civilization have reached America thousands of years ago?
What's up?
The thing I found about the Egyptians in Ohio was actually from a paper that was written. It's postulating it. I guess they took a lot of the evidence that they had been finding and saying this shows that there might have actually been Egyptians there.
That's from 1937?
That's when the guy was, I think, born. This is 40 years ago.
Oh,
so
wow.
That amulet was brass, apparently, and it was found near Cincinnati. And where I actually think that it might have been trade routes, because there was some like stones that have been found in various parts of the world that are from specifically Ohio, because it's like a rainbow shale that was used in like arrowheads and stuff a long, long time ago. Like that area was used to make weapons, like the first, like 12,000 years ago when the first people were kind of in North America. But that area in Ohio also is known as the sandstone capital of the world. And I don't know if that's related to the Egyptians, because that's what the pyramids are made out of, you know. There's tons of sandstone that is very specific to that region.
Yeah.
So,
Pyramids made out of sandstone?
I thought so. Yeah,
I've heard this,
there's
yeah.
21, from 1800 to 1980, 21 times the amount of sandstone that made the Great Pyramid was shipped out of Ohio to make various buildings all over the world.
Really?
Most of them in the United States, obviously, but all over the place.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, just weird
This-
facts I found
the
after Graham
history
came through.
of the humans.
We don't know history.
We know some.
The
Right?
only history that we know is the one we go discover on our own time. The one that's presented to us is not history. It's all lies.
Well, it's not all lies.
All of it.
There's some lies.
I found that too. I didn't
Lost civilization in Grand Canyon was, Egyptian?
Yeah, the Smithsonian published some stuff in 1909,
Oh, wow.
I guess, that where all this came from. There was an article that got written, and I don't know how much of it they proved or was proven or was just newspaper. It's like
Whoa.
bait back in the day.
Look at this.
kinda,
Even
but-
more amazing, the artifact didn't match up to anything on the known record. Rather than appearing to be of Native American origin, as one might expect, the object had distinct Egyptian or Tibetan designs. Could there have been an entire civilization of Egyptians living here? If so, how did they get here? Dun, dun, dun.
It's not that hard. Hop in the boat, man. You got cats that leave Africa and try to come to Spain on these places on a chicken wing.
Yeah.
You know?
It is interesting, right? Like the population of Cuba. Cuba's so insanely diverse, and it's right there. Like, what is the history of that other than the slave routes? Like, what is the history of Cuba? Because Cuba has very distinct African people living there.
The whole Caribbean, all that whole area is has a lot of African roots to it. But it's just a place that was conquered by the Spain, by the Cortezes, those type of people.
What really disturbs me is there's no way to know exactly what happened. It's like you're piecing things together based on artifacts and historical record, things that people wrote down, and journals and logs. And it's,
there's people that have traveled. So, again, I've studied this so long ago, but I remember reading primary source from somebody that traveled with Cristobal Colon, a.k.a. Christopher Columbus. And he was saying very specific things about his accounts when he reached these different places. And he was saying things like, we got to the land and we found Africans. And I remember him specifically saying, so no matter where we go, we find Africans. And he said it as if he was disappointed. And then they started talking about they started talking about their culture and describing their culture. You just got to go look at the people that travel with Cristobal Colon, and there's some firsthand accounts there, and they're very honest about it.
dude, I'm going to look into that now. That's very interesting. I'm going to ask Graham about that too, what he knows about it. He's studied, especially on his latest book, he studied a lot about the various cultures that made it to North America and South America.
Okay. Yeah. It's just very rich in history. Very, very rich in history.